This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, allegations an Amherst police officer misrepresented his qualifications, and it's already resulted in some charges being dropped.
Customers who paid thousands for windows that were never installed hope another company will honor their deposits.
And headed to Paris, Halifax gymnast Ellie Black will be the first Nova Scotia woman to compete in the Olympics 4 times.
We're still a few days out from the official start of summer. You wouldn't know it looking at temperatures like we enjoyed across the province today, but that heat and humidity not sticking around for the weekend. I'll have the details coming up.
Good evening. An Amherst police constable is under investigation tonight amid allegations he misrepresented his qualifications for the job.
Charges against 2 people have already been dropped as a result. Blair Rhodes has tonight's top story.
News that this police officer may not be all he claimed to be has sent ripples through the justice system. Earlier this month, charges against 2 Amherst people in 2 separate cases were dropped. The charges included drug and weapons offenses. Now the Public Prosecution Service is reviewing all the cases this officer handled. In a statement, the Prosecution Service said the review does not mean that charges will be dismissed in all cases. In a statement issued this morning, Amherst Police Chief Dwight Pike said he only learned of the problem late last month. In late May 2024, Amherst Police took immediate action when allegations came to light about the accuracy of some of the employment qualifications submitted by a recent hire, the chief said in his statement. As prospective employees with Amherst Police are required to be honest and forthcoming in how they present their qualifications, we followed the process laid out under the Nova Scotia Police Act and suspended the employee in question pending the outcome of an investigation. Pike's statement goes on to say that the officer resigned from the force shortly after the investigation started. While Pike would not name the officer in question, court documents reveal that he is Mark Rushton, who had only been on the force for about a year. In an online posting from June of last year, Amherst Police described Rushton as an experienced officer with time in the military police and with the municipal force in Alberta. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Halifax.
A long-standing windows and doors company with 6 locations across Nova Scotia and PEI has gone into receivership. All-Weather Windows and Doors shut its doors earlier this spring, and customers who paid thousands for work that was never done assumed their money was gone. But as Angela McIver reports, a new company is now promising to honor their deposits.
Fred Dill has 5 more broken windows like this he's been waiting to replace. He and his wife saved up for 2 years by picking berries to get the job done right.
Kind of heartbreaking when you find out it ain't gonna happen.
Last December, Dill paid a deposit of $5,200 to All-Weather Windows and Doors in Berwick. He was told the work would be done around the beginning of May. It was a similar story for Taylor Woods in Truro. She paid almost $7,000.
So I think it was April 29th and 30th that the work was supposed to be done. And then we didn't hear anything from them until March 2024, when we were told that they had installation delays because they had completed a restructuring in December and they were having trouble sourcing materials.
Turns out All-Weather went into receivership. All 6 locations across Nova Scotia and PEI closed. CBC News asked the former president and CEO for an interview, but he declined. This week, Canadian Choice Windows and Doors announced it's moving into all of the buildings.
Well, they're not really taking over All-Weather Windows and Doors, and I guess that's kind of the thing we really want to stress. We have 0 affiliation with All-Weather.
20 former staff members from All-Weather have been hired by Canadian Choice. General Manager Charles Mamie says the employees worried about customers who lost money.
Part of the conversations were, if I come to work for you, we need to find a way to help in the community. And that's really where a lot of this came from.
Canadian Choice says it will honor all deposits paid with proof of purchase. For Dill, it's a huge relief, but he wants the work done before he pays up again.
Still nervous because you don't know if it's actually going to happen or not, but it's looking a lot better than it has been.
As of today, the signs have changed over from all-weather to Canadian Choice, but even though it says now open, the company tells me they won't be ready to open to the public until next Wednesday. Angela McIver, CBC News, Dartmouth.
A Nova Scotia Supreme Court judge has ruled the province's chief electoral officer did not have the authority to order the Liberal Party to remove material thought to be misleading to voters during last summer's provincial by-election in Preston. Justice Josh Arnold says there's nothing in the Elections Act to justify the actions taken by Dorothy Rice. The issue was a sign and campaign material the Liberal candidate was delivering door to door. The PCs complained it unfairly suggested a waste disposal facility might go in the riding and that the party in power wasn't doing anything about it. Rice ordered the Liberals to get rid of the material, but the party ignored the order, triggering Rice's decision to launch an investigation and to say she was calling in police. Arnold ruled Rice had no authority to do either.
We're just happy that the judge agreed with our position. We did feel we were being treated unfairly. We saw the Conservative government putting up signs that we thought were misleading around the carbon tax, and we put up signs that were about a local issue that people cared about and wanted our candidate Carlo to advocate on, and we were told we couldn't do that, and certainly we didn't think that was fair, and we're happy that the judge agreed with us on that.
Churchill says he hopes the judgment will guide Rice and future chief electoral officers in their work. The PC candidate in that race, Twyla Gross, won the seat and is now in cabinet.
Terry Paul has been re-elected as chief of Membertou First Nation. The 72-year-old is now starting his 40th consecutive year as chief. Over the last couple of decades, Membertou has become known as one of the most prosperous Indigenous communities in the country. Paul says he's looking forward to continuing as chief.
Starting from almost rock bottom, and any accomplishment is somewhat like a legacy for me. So I think the legacy would be the development of the community to a much better level of development.
Paul was elected with 61% of the votes cast in the community of roughly 1,200 people. 9 band councillors were also re-elected and will be joined by 3 new councillors.
The Halifax Regional Municipality is warning residents they'll see a lot more water quality advisories at city beaches this summer. And it's not because of dramatic increases in bacteria, it's because of a recent change to Health Canada guidelines. Brooklyn Curry explains.
Summer water quality testing at Halifax's 19 supervised beaches means if the water isn't safe to swim, you'll know. But signs like this will likely be a lot more common in beaches around Halifax this summer. That's because of new guidance from Health Canada on what's considered an acceptable amount of bacteria.
As the research progresses, we learn more about what's safe and what's not. And so the last time the guidelines were updated before this was about 10 years ago, so it makes sense that we'd be seeing new values. But for fresh water, they have dropped the acceptable concentration almost by half.
Under the old guidelines, the maximum acceptable concentration of E. coli in a water sample was 200 units. Now it's 126. Montgomery says last summer was the worst on record for HRM beach closures. And if these guidelines had been in place then, it would have been even worse.
If these new guidelines had been applied at HRM beaches, we would have closed beaches an additional 17 times with no differences in the water quality results that we saw from last year. And that would have resulted in roughly 50 additional closure dates.
When the water quality doesn't meet Health Canada standards, the city will post signs telling beachgoers about the presence of bacteria and to swim at their own risk. Those beaches will still have lifeguards on site advising people not to swim. But if you decide to jump in anyway, they're not obligated to rescue you.
Because it's their workplace, so we need to make sure that they are safe. And the decisions that folks make may affect the safety of the lifeguards, right? So if we aren't sure that the lifeguards will encounter a safe workplace when they get in the water, we have to protect them.
City staff are also keeping an eye out for blue-green algae in the water and along the shore. It's becoming more common in Nova Scotia and is of particular concern to pet owners, having led to several dog deaths in recent years. If you spot blue-green algae at a city beach, you can report it to 311.
Yes, we can identify, but with our eyes, yes, it's like apply it at the species level to see if it could produce toxin.
Wadi says there are a lot of different types of blue-green algae, some more harmful than others. The city is working on an information campaign to give people a better idea of what to watch out for so they can enjoy the city's beaches safely. Brooklyn Curry, CBC News, Halifax.
Jay Scotland is in for Ryan Snoddon tonight on what has been a pretty nice day here in Halifax.
A real summer-like feel.
I know we're still a few days out from the official start of summer, but man, oh man, certainly felt that way today. We had some heat, we had some humidity. Here's a look at the overall weather picture in terms of our daytime highs today. And yeah, a few spots, temperature actually up near the 30-degree mark today. Humidex values, of course, was certainly even higher than that. And looking at loads of sunshine across the province today, do have some strong thunderstorms to our west in our neighboring province, of course, of New Brunswick. We'll start to see that frontal boundary start to make its way a little further east, and there is a chance later tonight that certainly for more western areas, that would be the higher probability of maybe a few rumbles of thunder accompanying the wet weather that is set to move in. So we will watch for the clouds to increase this evening. We start to get into that shower chance overnight. Into tomorrow morning for the Halifax area, I can't rule out some sunnier breaks in the morning. Do watch for some fog patches until that wind picks up. Clouds will increase, and then through the afternoon, this is when that steadier rain starts to spread across most of the province, holding off for eastern areas until later in the day. But we will start to see some steadier rain and some stronger winds to put a wrap on your Saturday. So here's a look at what you can expect over the next 24 hours. Again, breaks of sunshine in the morning. Do be mindful that there could be some fog patches. Now, it's going to be a little earlier for more southern and western areas, a little later for eastern areas, but that steadier rain will be working its way across the province for your Saturday.
Well, the lawns will get a drink, right? They
love
need
it.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Thanks, Jay. We'll
Thanks,
check
Jay.
a little later. Thanks.
Some areas of Halifax are without internet connection after road construction caused extensive damage to Eastlink's network earlier today, taking down several lines. The areas affected include the western part of Halifax and the St. Margaret's Bay Road area. A spokesperson for Eastlink says it could take all day to fix the issue, if not longer. Highway 103 is closed between exit 2B and exit 3 while the repairs are being done.
Halifax area septic tank haulers have been cut off from their regular disposal site for what could be months. GFL's West Hants septic facility notified haulers they would be turned away at the site because of, quote, operational challenges. Those trucks must now head to Amherst, an hour and a half away. The result is the cost to get a septic tank pumped will likely double, say some operators. Pam Lovelace is the councillor in Hammonds Plains.
Oh, it's having a massive impact on businesses who need to be cleaned out every 3 to 4 days. We're heading into the tourism season, and they just have septic tanks, and those septic tanks need to be cleared. Also, we have homeowners who are trying to sell their homes, and in order to do that, they've got to have a cleared septic system.
I'll talk to Councillor Lovelace about the scope of the problem and what needs to be done about it. That's our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30.
The Olympic Games in Paris are less than 2 months away, and when the Games begin, it will mark an historic moment for Halifax's Ellie Black. The gymnast will make her 4th appearance at the Olympics, something no other woman from Nova Scotia has done before. The CBC's Paul Palmater caught up with her yesterday.
With 3 Olympic Games behind her, Ellie Black is still at the top of her game as she gets set to make Nova Scotia history. Now 28 years old, Black's desire to win an Olympic medal in her 4th trip to the Olympics is still what fuels her.
You know, it's always been a goal of mine to help Canada get on the podium at the Olympics. So I think for me, it's just focusing on the process and what I need to do to be feeling healthy and prepared and show my best gymnastics when it comes down to those days, and just see where that puts me.
Last weekend in Quebec, Black won her 8th Canadian Gymnastics Championship. She's been among the best gymnasts in the world for over a decade and is the most decorated Canadian female gymnast ever. She's come very close to winning a medal at the Olympics, but serious injuries to both of her ankles have derailed her at some big events. As she gets ready for Paris, her body is good to go.
For the past few years, I've had, an ankle injury that I worked really hard to overcome, and I wasn't ever really sure that I was going to get back to the highest level of gymnastics. And so to be able to go into my 4th Olympics and have that opportunity to represent Canada again is just incredibly special.
Even though she's under 30, Black is one of the oldest international gymnasts. She is a highly respected leader for the Canadian women's team, and while the Olympics in Paris could be her last, don't count on it.
After the games, I'll definitely have to take some time to rest and really just kind of train for some enjoyment and, enjoy some of the day-to-day life that kind of gets put on hold when you're training for the Olympics for a few years. And then I'll have to see after that.
Paul Palmater, CBC News, Halifax.
A Royal Canadian Navy patrol ship has joined Russian naval vessels in the harbor in Havana, Cuba. HMCS Margaret Brooke sailed into Havana earlier today. It's being called a port visit in recognition of the long-standing relationship between Canada and Cuba. The visit coincides with the arrival of a Russian flotilla that includes a nuclear submarine and that of a U.S. Navy attack sub at its Guantanamo naval base in Cuba. But a Canadian diplomat says the Navy's visit is unrelated to the other vessels. Halifax is the home port to HMCS Margaret Brooke.
A unique Second World War era aircraft will take to the skies this month from Fairview, Alberta, on its way to Yarmouth. The flight is to honor a pilot who flew during World War II. Dennis Coveton has the story from Edmonton.
This 81-year-old PBY Kanso is one of the few surviving airworthy planes of its type. It's now being readied for an important mission, to fly to Nova Scotia to pay tribute to a pilot who flew it during the war, James McRae, who passed away this year at the age of 106.
The whole idea of our airplane is to give people a sense of their history and where the country is coming from and even the individuals are coming from.
It's not just a plane, it's a symbol of the lives that were sacrificed and the freedoms that we enjoy.
McRae did 33 hours on this Kanso in March of 1945 on anti-U-boat patrols and convoy escorts. The Canadian-built flying boat was painstakingly restored between 2008 and 2017 by a dedicated group in Fairview. The trip to Yarmouth was conceived while McRae was still alive.
Part of our plan when we started this cross-Canada tour was to go to Yarmouth and to see Mr. McRae again and give him another chance to see the old plane.
He was very fond of the Kanso aircraft. When he found out that they were restoring the plane in Fairview, he was very excited to hear about that. And even in an interview, they asked him if he would like to take part in the flight, and he said, "I sure would."
Before he flew this Kanso, he was flying another plane of the same type and almost lost his life in it when it was shot down by a German U-boat.
He had sunk a submarine, and a senior officer that was on board had insisted they come around and get photographs for it. And that's when the aircraft got shot and one engine damaged.
It's a lot of airplane for a young pilot with very little time. You're into an environment that's very harsh in the North Atlantic. You got ice that this airplane isn't good at handling. You got big water. You've got a large crew. You've got lots of fuel on board. You're under pressure to perform. I can't imagine the stress that those guys were going through.
Plane to me is a lot of metal and aluminum, but mostly it's about people and about Canadian people and Canadian values.
Dennis Coveton, CBC News, Fairview.
The Naval Museum of Halifax is marking a special milestone today. It's officially 50 years since it opened its doors to the public. I'm here with Director Jennifer Denty and former Director Rick Sanderson. So kind of a big celebration here today.
Most certainly. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, can you tell me a bit about, I guess, why this museum is so special?
For most of the people that work in the museum or are volunteers with the museum, they have a long history with the Canadian Navy, ancestors, friends. So for us, it's like an anniversary at your own home.
Well, if you could talk to me a bit about some of the exhibits that are currently around this building.
We have exhibits on the First World War, Second World War, Battle of the Atlantic, directly behind you. We have the Halifax Explosion exhibit behind me. This building was being used as a naval hospital at the time. It was very badly damaged in the Halifax explosion, so we have material from that. We've also borrowed material from Maritime Museum of the Atlantic because they're a close cooperative organization. We have an exhibit behind me again, which is on the Niobe, which is Canada's first warship on this coast. We have an exhibit on some uniforms. We have hundreds of uniforms, so we only put out a few at a time.
Well, talk to me a bit about who comes to the museum. I imagine this is sort of peak time for you guys, and what do they experience? What do they tell you once they've gone through?
So our sort of core visitor demographic is split half and half between people who are military, but also we get a lot of cruise ship passengers, especially British people, being the home of the Royal Navy Admiral, or people who have served in the Halifax dockyard when the Royal Navy was stationed here. We actually had someone come looking for a great uncle who was a doctor on board one of the ships and thought, I think my great uncle, I think he's buried here. And we have the Royal Navy Burying Grounds is one of the areas that we help to care for. And our archivist, Lisa McNiven, she's fantastic. And she found the individual, and the tombstone still existed. So we were able to actually take them down and open up the graveyard, and they could visit the graveyard as well. So
very special.
Very special. So it really doesn't matter who you are. Somebody somewhere in your family has some kind of connection. They either dated somebody in the Navy, they served in the Navy, they had a neighbor who served in the Navy, and they remember that experience. And so everybody can find a little bit of themselves here. And one thing that people used to always say, it's been 30 years since I've been here. And now people are starting to say, wow, what a great experience. Yeah. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the part that I find really exciting about this is what Jennifer is describing. It is a very personal experience. My very first day working here in 2006, there was a fellow came in looking for material on the Chiefs and PO's mess, which was over that way. And I opened up the file, and there's a photograph of my grandfather there.
Oh, my goodness.
And I cried.
Well, I bet. Well, thank you both for taking the time to talk to me today. And once again, congratulations on 50 years.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much.
Students at Hammonds Plains Consolidated Elementary School are finding fun and creative ways to give back to their community. From pre-primary to grade 5, the whole school rallied together for this unique fundraiser. Our Selena Alders went to check it out.
2 weeks of hard work and over 700 boxes of cereal all went into this very moment. A giant domino chain of cereal boxes to celebrate the students' fundraising accomplishments. They've been collecting boxes of their favorite cereals to donate to the St. Margaret's Bay Food Bank.
They're very excited to do it, and they're always, excited when they bring in their cereal box, and they just know that they're helping their community.
This is the 3rd year in a row the school has put on the fundraiser, and it's the most boxes they've ever collected. 5-year-old Lila Noseworthy had a lot to do with that. She single-handedly brought in 183 boxes.
My friends and family helped me, and I also bought them.
Did you go to the store and pick out a few flavors? What kinds did you get from the store?
I forget. I got a lot of kinds.
But she says her favorite kind is Honey Nut Cheerios. School staff say people at the food bank are always appreciative of the donations.
They are over the moon, and of course, there's such a great need right now, so it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we're doing, I think.
Now that the challenge is over, the 700 boxes will be transported from the school to the food bank for local families to enjoy. The students are all looking forward to next year's fundraiser, where they hope to beat their record. Selena Alders, CBC News, Hammonds Plains.
What an impressive effort.
I know, and they were having so much fun at the same time.
A fun day at school,
yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. Well, anticipation is building among teenagers in Eastern Passage now that construction has started on a brand new skate park in the community.
It's being built in Eastern Passage Common Park as a first step in what will be an ongoing development there. Gareth Hampshire has that story.
This is the skate park Kyle Worrell's been honing his skateboard skills on in Eastern Passage. But it's about 20 years old and the rust and cracks are showing.
Growing up, this is all I really had. So having a new skate park would be great for just the community in general.
Even the kids who are not skateboarders are looking forward to spending time in the new park.
I'll be there probably all the time. I like to record my friends when they're skating, and I'll post them for them and I'll edit the photos. They usually like that when I do that.
I mean, it's a new place to hang out. It's like just something new in the area, you know, we really need that.
The new place just down the street they're talking about is starting to take shape.
So this feature right here is what we're building here behind us.
It's going to look like this when it's finished. A skate park that the Halifax Skateboarding Association predicts will be one of the best in Nova Scotia, one that young people in Eastern Passage have been hoping for years.
The park up the road is an older prefab metal park that is at the end of its life. This is going to be a concrete skate park. Everything will be made with perfect transitions. It won't be metal ramps meeting the concrete sort of jankiness.
The design for this $800,000 park was approved 4 years ago and followed several community consultations.
It's going to be mostly ledges and rails for the kids and then like banks and hips. So it's more of a street style skate park opposed to a transition style skate park.
Those working on the project are riders themselves, so they're enjoying building something kids in the area will use for years to come.
One of the best parts of our job is getting to go back and actually seeing the kids enjoying the park. That's one of the best parts of the whole deal.
He expects it's going to take about 2 months to complete, meaning Kyle Worrell and his friends could be wheeling around at the new park by the end of August. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Eastern Passage.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of fun to be had there.
Going to get a lot of use, I think.
First quick break on the way. Stay with us.
We have a lot more to come on CBC Nova Scotia News. One of the men wanted for the $20 million Pearson Airport gold heist plans to turn himself in.
And an historic day at the G7 summit. Pope Francis becomes the first pontiff to attend the meeting.
It was a good day for ice cream, wasn't it? They're having a good time. Jay is back next with the weather forecast. We're back after this. right? It was kind of a beach day today if you weren't working.
Sunburn day for lots of people in Nova Scotia, for sure, huh, Jay?
Yeah, I wouldn't venture too far off the beach
Right,
yet,
right. No,
but
the
I
water
mean,
be cold.
on the beach with a nice beverage, it would be agreeable. I have to give a shout out, by the way, speaking of the summer-like temperatures, folks in Greenwood, at least for most of the day, may hold the title actually still. Greenwood, Nova Scotia, 29 degrees. That was Canada's hotspot. May officially grab that title by end of day, but it was leading the pack for much of the day today. So some very warm conditions as we look to, if you get away from the marine influence, inland areas or up into the valley, for example. This is where we saw those temperatures. It was warm across the province, but even warmer for some areas. Satellite and radar picture does show some thunderstorms to our west, some strong ones too. Hail, looking at some locally very gusty winds, a lot of lightning strikes as we look to parts of New Brunswick, some heavy downpours. Later this evening, for western areas, we could be looking at a chance of some thunder showers and some locally heavier downpours as well. So that potential is not as widespread as what folks in New Brunswick are seeing right now, but we could be looking at a few rumbles of thunder tonight when those, and into tomorrow as well, as the periods of rain are moving through. So we will watch for the convective shower chance this evening, and then through the overnight hours tonight, do watch for fog patches, showers possible, and then we'll start to see this band of some more moderate rain starting to take shape into the morning hours for western areas tomorrow. It does progress east with this area of low pressure, very potent low. A lot of moisture with this one sitting offshore, wrapping in that wet weather as we look to the second half of your Saturday. So the steadier rain for most areas, afternoon, evening, and where we see that initial band of more moderate precipitation form, this is where 15 to local amounts, well over 30 millimeters, will be possible. That will not necessarily be widespread. As we look Saturday night into Sunday, that sky does clear. Area of low pressure brings the heavy rain off to parts of Newfoundland, and this ridge of high pressure sees a very sunny sky for Dad on Father's Day. Temperatures will be a little bit cooler, and it will be quite breezy. A brisk northerly wind will be fairly gusty, but lots of sunshine for Dad on Father's Day. Really uninterrupted sunshine possible across the province on Sunday. So very nice conditions. Nice to be outdoors, not too muggy. Just not beach weather for Father's Day. Through the overnight hours tonight, we do have that chance of showers, and do keep in mind this evening and again tomorrow morning, where we see that more moderate rain taking shape tomorrow even. Some rumbles of thunder certainly are a possibility, so do keep an ear to the sky. Head indoors at the first sound of thunder. Temperatures tonight between 13 and 16 degrees for the overnight low temperatures, really not that low at all. And daytime highs tomorrow, big change from today. We were talking about Greenwood, 29 degrees, Canada's hotspot for a good chunk of the day today. We'll be struggling to hit 20, maybe 21 there tomorrow. You can see those daytime highs. Most areas at or a few degrees below 20, and we do have some more moderate rain that will be falling in areas where we see that band of heavier rain, 15 to over 30 millimeters possible. Father's Day, though, the sky does clear. It is going to be still on the windy side. Mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures back over 20 for Monday. And as we look at the long-range outlook, middle to the end of next week, we could be looking at, for inland areas, temperatures over 30, close to it for even coastal areas. Humidex values could be quite high, so some summer-like heat on the way next week.
Temperatures ticking up for sure. Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jay.
You got it. All right, up next, I'll talk with HRM Councillor Pam Lovelace about septic woes for residents now that a disposal facility is temporarily closing. That is our Newsmaker interview.
Do stay with us. You are watching CBC Nova Scotia News.
Halifax area septic haulers have been cut off from their regular disposal site for what could be months. GFL's West Hants septic facility notified haulers they would be turned away at the site because of, quote, operational challenges. Pam Lovelace is councillor for District 13, Hammonds Plains, where some of her constituents use septic systems. Ms. Lovelace, what kind of an impact do you think this could have on homeowners or landlords there? What are you hearing from people?
Oh, it's having a massive impact on businesses who need to be cleaned out every 3 to 4 days. We're heading into the tourism season, and they just have septic tanks, and those septic tanks need to be cleared. Also, we have homeowners who are trying to sell their homes, and in order to do that, they've got to have a cleared septic system. We've got people who are listening to alarms in their home. They're starting to smell sewage in their home because they can't get a hauler to come and take the sewage away. And that is because haulers don't have a place to go. The system is up on its end right now, and we're looking to leadership at the municipality and the Provincial Department of Environment and Climate Change to come forward with a short-term solution immediately. In addition to that, though, we need to have a very serious discussion about what this long-term solution is going to look like.
So, the understanding is that this is happening because there is a problem at the site where they normally take the septic or the sewage. I mean, beyond that, what's your understanding of what's happening and how serious that is, or how likely it would be, or how quickly it might be fixed?
I think it's just a symptom overall of the fact that we're growing. We have massive apartment buildings, a lot of new homes, new dwellings, all on septic systems. And so what we should be doing is supporting the small businesses and the septic operators and ensure that they have a safe space, an adequate space with capacity. But again, you've got to remember, we're looking at an 18th century or 19th century problem, and what we need is a 21st century solution. So if we're going to continue to permit more and more dwellings and businesses on septic fields, then we're going to have to invest in newer technology to address this wastewater. And also, I'm looking at, I'm hearing from small businesses who are saying they can't get workers. And this is going to turn people away. If the uncertainty in the septic hauling operators right now is causing a lot of grief, a lot of stress. And this problem was known years ago. You can't keep developing and adding more input into a system without expanding and enhancing the system.
Yeah, and I talked to some septic service companies today who say they're really worried they're going to be going out of business because the alternate location to truck to is Amherst, which, is another hour away from where they had been hauling. So the costs are going to go up.
Well, and also, I don't think that people realize that all of those septic haulers, they also, if they're going on Highway 102, they get stopped at the scale. And so they have to wait in line at the scale. They've got to pay additional costs. If their truck is over even by, a liter or two, they get turned away. So whether or not Amherst is a solution, that's up in the air because it really isn't sustainable. What we need is a better opportunity for our local businesses here in HRM to not only be communicated with, but to actually be involved in finding the solution. So I look forward to working with the Provincial Department of Environment staff, HRM staff, and septic hauler operators to determine what is the next step as far as envisioning the future of this industry.
Well, what about short term though? Because as you say, next 3 or 4 days, a lot of these companies are going to have to be pumped out again. What can you do? What can council or anyone else do in the short term?
Well, that's exactly my point. Is that we can look forward to a big solution in the future. But right now we're in a crisis situation. And so we're looking to Halifax Water. I'm looking to Halifax Water, and so are the operators to help determine what that solution is. But quite frankly, if people can haul down to Chester or other locations, that would be ideal. But I'm not sure that that's an opportunity because Liverpool's turning people away. Chester is turning away people from out of area. And Halifax, HRM needs to have its own solution.
We'll see what happens in the next few days. Pam Lovelace, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
And Canada is getting more crowded with the addition of Shake Shack.
Welcome back. There has been a development in the largest gold heist in Canadian history. Last spring, police say $20 million in gold bars and cash were loaded onto a truck near Toronto's Pearson Airport, then driven away.
Now, CBC News is learning that one of the suspects still at large is preparing to turn himself in. Katie Nicholson has the latest.
It was the largest gold heist in Canadian history, more than $20 million in gold and foreign currency in this 5-ton truck, stolen from a cargo facility. One of the first people investigators met was an Air Canada manager who gave them a tour. Simranpreet Panesar later became a suspect.
He resigned in the summer of last year, and then we have not been able to locate him since. We have an idea, and I can't speak to where we believe he is right now.
2 months after police announced charges against him, Panesar has resurfaced. In a statement, Panesar's lawyer Greg LaFontaine says his client is voluntarily returning to Canada in the coming weeks and is anxious to have an opportunity to demonstrate his absolute innocence. He says right now, Panesar is tidying up his affairs abroad, but wouldn't say where. But on Wednesday, Panesar messaged CBC News via a WhatsApp business account connected to an Indian mobile number. Before he disappeared, Panesar and his wife Preeti made music videos in Canada, like this one, and were apparently trying to break into the Punjabi entertainment industry. Days before the gold heist charges were announced in April, Preeti, who is not a gold heist suspect, posted pictures from a photo shoot in a city in northern Punjab. She tagged people and businesses in her posts, and CBC News contacted them and sent multiple emails to Preeti's official account. That all led up to the WhatsApp message from the suspect on Wednesday. If Panesar returns to Canada, that leaves just one suspect still in the wind, Arsalan Chowdhury.
The case is still in its early stages and the investigation is ongoing, but across the border, a U.S. arms trafficking trial involving the alleged wheelman in the gold heist is scheduled to begin in September in Pennsylvania. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met on the sidelines of the G7. It is their first face-to-face interaction since Trudeau accused India of involvement in the assassination of a Sikh nationalist in BC. Pope Francis also addressed the leaders in the first ever appearance by a pope at a G7 meeting. Ashley Burke reports.
Face-to-face but still far apart. The day started with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi at this G7 meeting with the Pope and other countries, sitting 6 seats away from Justin Trudeau. The closest they had been since Canada's Prime Minister publicly accused India of involvement in the assassination of a Canadian Sikh activist.
Congratulations once again.
Modi, who was denied the claims, made the rounds at the summit, sitting down with other leaders, but not Trudeau. Then late in the day, Modi posted this photo to his 98 million followers on X. Trudeau's office afterward called it an interaction on the margins of the summit, saying in a statement the Prime Minister congratulated Modi on his re-election and had a brief discussion on bilateral issues, adding, "Of course, there are important issues between our two countries right now. We won't be making any further statements."
That they spoke, given what has happened over the past year, suggests that there is progress in repairing the relationship.
Good evening, everyone.
Italy's Prime Minister urged countries to come together at this meeting.
We can only deal with the global challenges we are facing if we are able to cooperate with respect and with a peer-to-peer approach.
But the differences between India and Canada run deep. A report by a cross-party panel of MPs and senators last week declared India the second biggest threat behind China when it comes to meddling in Canada's democracy. The G7's final communique says leaders are more concerned than ever before about foreign interference and agreed to bolster the G7's rapid response mechanism to counter threats. Canada also announced it will hold the next G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Bari, Italy.
The Princess of Wales shared an update on her health today. She announced she's making good progress in her cancer treatment and will make her first public appearance since her diagnosis. In a statement, she said she's not out of the woods yet and faces a few more months of recovery. She said there are good days and bad days, and she's allowing herself much-needed time to heal. The princess will be attending the Trooping the Colour ceremony tomorrow in London to mark King Charles's birthday. A palace spokesperson says the king is delighted that she's able to attend. Kate announced in March that she'd been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing preventative chemotherapy.
Another big-name American chain is stepping into Canada's crowded fast food scene. Shake Shack has opened its first location in Toronto. Nisha Patel checked it out.
Another popular American chain hopes to shake up fast food in Canada.
I'm just looking forward to trying new food, I guess.
This is like the first time I ever stood in line for a new restaurant, actually.
New York-based Shake Shack will serve up burgers, fries, and milkshakes at its first location in Toronto. Beer and wine are also on the menu, a rare offering here.
Canada has been our most requested country anywhere in the world for the last 7 years.
Starting out as a hot dog cart at Madison Square Park in 2001, Shake Shack's following and menu grew quickly. The $4 billion company now has over 500 locations worldwide, but Canadian customers will have to fork over a little more. Shake Shack's signature burger rings up at $8.49, compared to $6.49 for a Mama Burger at A&W.
All of our ingredients, the way they're sourced, is more like a fine dining restaurant than a quick serve restaurant.
The chain is launching at a time when higher bills may be tough to swallow. Restaurant food prices have jumped 11% in 2 years.
In times of economic uncertainty, there's some shifting going on for sure. Maybe people are going out to the higher end restaurants as much, but the quick service does quite well.
And there's stiff competition. American Blaze Pizza and Chick-fil-A are growing their footprints in Canada, while sandwich joints Jimmy John's and Jersey Mike's are also looking to expand north.
There's an adjustment factor as U.S. brands come into Canada, but overall they usually do quite well.
They do it right. I mean, everyone tries to copy Shake Shack now.
Shake Shack plans to open another 34 locations across the country by 2035. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index closed down on Friday and for the week overall, while U.S. markets were mixed. Here's a look at how the markets did today as we head to break. All right, the weekend's here. Time for that all-important last peek at the weekend weather forecast.
Yes, what say you, Jay?
Can I head out now? Or do we,
Sure.
Do you really want the
Just
details
a few
on
more
Saturday?
minutes, if you
I don't
don't
want to
mind.
be too down on the rain. Rain is a good thing. Keeps the grass nice and green, of course. Keeps the fire risk a little lower as well. So we do like to see that wet weather. I was talking about that band of more moderate rain possible. Still uncertainty as to where this lines up, but you can see that band there. This is where 15 to 30, some areas even over 40 millimeters possible. The good news for Father's Day anyway is that sky will clear across the province. So it's a Saturday rain event, not a full weekend rain event, although temperatures will be a little cooler come Sunday. So we start out tomorrow with a chance of showers for most areas. Can't say we won't see a few breaks of sunshine, certainly for more eastern areas, but even for the HRM to start the day. Watch for fog patches in the afternoon with a shower chance. Steadier rain arriving late afternoon into the evening for the Halifax area. And here's a quick look at what you can expect for the Father's Day weekend. No barbecue weather for Saturday. Sunday, barbecue weather, and that temperature should be a little on the cool side, but at least around 20 degrees, although we'll be a little on the breezy side, so do keep an eye on the napkins.
Good advice.
Barbecue is a good idea, too. All right. Jay,
Thanks,
have a
Jay.
great weekend. Thanks so much.
You too.
Well, when you put out the bird seed, it's not always the feathered friends who flock to the feeder. Take a look at this.
His mother's not nearby.
So much for the squirrels and chipmunks. Steve Alexander and Beatrice Sains woke up yesterday to a young black bear dining out on their back deck.
The bear had a tight grip on their feeder, and the couple says they get lots of other animals in their yard, but the bear encounter is a first.
Approach with care.
Yep.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.